All right, so here we go. It's not going to be formal, but we're recording this. This is Amy's very first time to ever try it. And I'm recording it and I'm going to pretend that we're downloading it, even though it's not on my website yet. That way, whenever you see this, you'll be able to go to my website, download. This is actually my and Chad High's website, but you'll be able to go there, download it, and then follow along with the video. I've even figured out a little way to practice doing this stuff on your computer. So anyway, Amy, you're not going to do this yet. I'm just showing you. But anyway, so here we go. First of all, you go to texastolkien.com, click on Tolkien Resources and Helpful Links, and scrolling down, you're going to see Chad Bornholdt's Tolkien content tools. And there's 6 of them there right now. There are 3 of them that I haven't put on there yet. One of the 3, which is not there yet, but will be, is going to look like this, which is Chad's Tengwar training. You're going to look for that. And whenever you download it, I'm going to close that now. Whenever you down, I'm going to close this. When you download it, it's going to come up with this. So before I even get started, I'm going to do something real quick just to show people how they can practice. So basically, I open Paint. I haven't done anything with it yet. The first thing I'm going to do when I open Paint, you see how the screen is this big. You can't do anything past there. So the first thing I do is I'm going to press my print screen button on my laptop. So the print screen button, however you have to do it on yours, I printed a screen, and that just like copied the entire desktop, everything that I see, it copied. So then I'm going to paste it, and it pastes it all to there. But really the only reason I was doing that was so I could have the screen be that big. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to brushes, and I'm going to change to calligraphy brush 2. And then over on the size, I'm going to make it as big as possible. And then I'm going to click zoom, and I'm going to zoom in twice. And then go back to the brush. And now you see how it's like a slash there. Now, whenever you do something, it's going to look like you're writing with a calligraphy pen, because basically I turned it into a calligraphy pen. I made it as big as possible, and then I zoomed in a couple times. That way it looks okay. I'm just rigging it up to make it work right. So then after that, I'm going to click this little thing right here so I get a bigger screen. And there, this is going to be our scratch pad the whole time I'm showing you things. Okay, so back to here. And here we go. So before I get going, I'm going to explain modes. So first of all, the Tengwar training is actually, we're only going to be teaching general orthographic mode, which general is how you do your vowels, and the orthographic means that you're not doing it phonetically. The reason why we're sticking to general orthographic first is because it's the easiest. So if you do phonetic, and the fact that you're from the UK and I'm from Hickville, Texas, is our phonetics are going to be a lot different, because people in Texas don't even say things like people just a couple of states up, much less like the motherland, right? So basically, if I tried to write something phonetically, it would be harder for you to read it than for Sean Marchese to read it, because he's from the general area that I'm from. And I mean, he's like really, really close to the general area I'm from. Whereas if you were to write something, and the thing about it is, if you knew that I'm the one that wrote it, you could imagine, okay, how would Chad say this? But vice versa is also true. If you were writing something phonetically, you would think to spell it the way that your phonetics go. And then I would have trouble figuring out what you had written because I don't pronounce things the way that people over in England do. So if you go with orthographic, all you're doing is writing the letters and people can pronounce it however they want. Now we say it's every letter. However, even in the orthographic mode, you will see that there are a few things that are done phonetically, which is it's a little strange to say orthographic is not phonetic because there's just a couple of letters that are done orthographically, no matter phonetically, even if you're in the orthographic mode. Now the general part is basically it's the way that the vowels are done. And in English, when we're writing stuff in English using the Tengwar, all the vowels go a certain way. If you were going to write in Quenya, the vowels would go a different way. If you're going to write in Sindarin, Baleriand, full mode, there's vowels are a different way. So the way that I'm going here is my purpose here is to teach you the way that it's done in English. And you'll notice once you get even okay at this, you'll notice that you can start reading things, and you'll notice that the majority of the stuff written is just written in English. Now, the difference is one thing that people always get confused on. They confuse translation with transliteration. They see all these pretty Elvish letters and they just say that's Elvish. It actually isn't. It's just the Elvish alphabet. There's a big difference. It's like in everyday life, we have translations all the time. Like we translate from English to Spanish, from English to French, from Spanish to French, whatever, So translation is changing from one language to another. And then transliteration is changing from one alphabet to another. So you could think about like using a Sanskrit alphabet and writing Chad, that's transliteration. Using a Chinese alphabet, that's transliteration. If you write the same exact word in another alphabet, that's transliteration. But if you write the word in another language in the same alphabet, that's translation. For example, the example I always use is the English word for friend, F-R-I-E-N-D, friend. You can translate that to Spanish and it's amigo. You can also translate that to Sindarin, which is melon, which was on the front door of the Holland Gate to Moria in the Fellowship of the Ring. So in the same instance, you've got friend, amigo, and melon. Those three words, those are all the same word translated to another language. But you could also take all three of those words, and instead of using the Latin or Roman alphabet, which we are all very used to, you could swap over and use the Tengwar or Elvish alphabet, the Fëanorian alphabet. And basically, you would write friend, but using the Elvish language, using the Elvish alphabet. You could write amigo using the Elvish alphabet. You could write melon using the Elvish alphabet. And so transliterating would be using the other letters. And then once you're in transliteration and you're using the Tengwar, the different modes will refer to the different ways of using the same exact letters, but the letters could mean something different, such as like over in the Scandinavian countries, the letter that we here in the States use as J, as in judge, they don't pronounce J, they pronounce it yeah, like with a Y. So that's an example of using a Latin or Roman letter J to make one sound in one country and a different sound in another country. And that is equivalent to the Tengwar being used in different modes. It's the same exact thing. So the Tengwar in one mode could be kind of like using a J as the j sound, and the Tengwar in another mode will be using the J in the ya sound. So that's a good example of how the modes work. So this front page right here, I took a long time to explain that, which I didn't mean to, but the front page here is just giving you an idea of what everything is. And if at the top you see this 1.3, the 1.3 there is just, if I make any changes, I'm going to put them on there. And then anyone who downloads it will know whether or not they have the newest version. You could always go back to the website, download it again. And if it's got a different number than yours, you know I made a change. So anyway, these things right here, these are just the names of these tabs. And the tabs, if you go in order and you read everything, you don't have to memorize everything. You just have to understand everything. As soon as you understand everything, you're going to start getting pretty good pretty fast. So it's a lot of stuff to try and memorize. If you look at it and you try and memorize it, you're going to fail. But if you just understand it, you're going to be successful. One of the things that I noticed when I was looking at these other training materials, a couple of online PDFs, a couple of websites, and a couple of books, I believe that they don't stress well enough that this is easy. It is not said that way, and so you think it's a little tough. And after Matt Cannon, evil Dr. Cannon on Corey Olson's shows, after Matt Cannon gave me his little method of teaching, I was thinking, oh my goodness, this is crazy easy. I can't believe how easy it is. Everything in the books makes it look hard. So anyways, let's start on vowel monophthongs. So this whole page, basically what I'm doing here is I'm teaching you that a monophthong, mono as in one, it's basically a syllable with one vowel sound. So that's easy to understand because that's the way most things are. So any syllable that you're going to read that only has one vowel in it, if you see one vowel, then it's definitely a monophthong. If you see two vowels in a single syllable, then it may be, it's either two syllables. If you see two vowels, it's either two syllables or it's a diphthong. It's one or the other. So right here on the left, I kind of explain what monophthongs are, which we don't need to go read that because that's a different lesson. But right here, I write at the very top, this training tool is for general orthographic mode. Use this mode for English. That's why we're doing this one. So we're going to learn English first, which is normally done in general orthographic. And once you get good at general orthographic, the other ones come easy. Like the other day when we were all looking at those original Tolkien manuscripts at Marquette, there were quite a few words where one letter or so I didn't know. But because I knew every other letter, I knew what the word said. That's just basically because I know the English one very well. I can see where there's experimentation, or even in the modern times when there's a mistake. If you start to write something to me and you make a mistake, I'm going to know what you wrote. It'd be no different than writing hello Chad and leaving out one of the L's. I would know exactly what it was supposed to say, and I would say, hey, you left out one of the L's. And then eventually you would stop leaving out one of the L's, and it gets easy way faster than what you think. So first of all, there's several different ways of doing vowels, and I'm going to show you every way. And the key thing to remember is all of these ways are right. None of them are. That's one thing that people get stuck up on. And I was too before I realized it. You look at them all these different ways and you think, which way is right? All of them are. So Tehtar, or that's the Elvish word for a diacritical mark above another letter. So whereas we have these accents and stuff in English, those are called Tehtar in Elvish. I'm going to go through in Tengwar. I'm going to go through this quickly, and I want to say right here, these vowels are going to get easy very quickly. Don't take forever trying to memorize them because they're going to be the easiest part of all. Every single word you write is going to have these letters in it, And so that gets drilled into your head so quickly that the vowels just become second nature. And the one thing that I've noticed in other training is that they don't even mention the vowels till the end. Well, I believe that's a mistake because it's so easy. You might as well throw them in front of people beforehand. Anyway, so this thing right here is called a carrier, and that's basically just a placeholder. It's kind of like putting a character in place, leaving space for the vowel. Normally, you don't do that. As a matter of fact, here we go with the first thing. So see this A, those three dots above any character, above any letter, that's an A. So right here, starting off, this is a D, A, D. This is the way that we would normally write it, except that's a D, that's an A, and that's a D. That says the word dad. Real easy. Two D's and an A. But most of the time, you don't use you don't put the carrier there. The carrier is only there if there's not another consonant to throw the vowel above. For instance, right here, you've got D, A, D. In general orthographic mode, the vowels are placed above the next consonant. Now, if a word ends in a vowel, then there's no consonant, so you have to use the carrier. So a word that would end with an A, you'd have to do it this way. But since this word ends with a consonant, you just go D, A, D. In general orthographic mode, you'll see Stephen Belsky and I, when we were talking about this, we were saying CV, VC, and I think Taz said that also. Taz Cooper said that. So this is VC because whenever you're reading like this, you're reading this character, it's vowel consonant. You say the vowel first, then you say the consonant next. So VC. The opposite way would be CV, which would mean you're reading up. But in VC, you're reading down. So this is D, A, D. You understand that?
Yep.
So far, so good. So now we're going to come down to here. Now, first of all, think about it. Every one of these vowels that I have up here, that's the way you make words out of them. That you're gonna have your consonants. You write your consonants down. The consonants are what take up space, and then the vowels go above them. Coming down here, here's a few little things that kind of, they don't really follow that rule, but you can do it all these different ways. So silent E. So first of all, let me say this right here again. Both ways are technically correct. That's the stuff I was showing you up here. So you can do it with the carrier, you can do it without the carrier. And I stress, both ways are technically correct, but most people use the second one. You'll find there are several acceptable ways to write most things. If you aren't doing something on the list of don'ts, then you'll be correct, even if unorthodox. So Tanya's first thing that she wrote, she had a couple of things that aren't the way we do them. Matt said, here's what you wrote. And he said, I have to admit, the only reason I know what that double L was is because of the context. That's because this is hour number 6 for her, so she did that a little differently, but it doesn't matter. You can do it. So she did it that way and it's fine. It's not like the grammar Nazis in Elvish aren't going to get you because there's a million correct ways to do things. It ain't like in English where we all can nail people for not doing something right, So anyway, silent E. So first of all, looking up here, look at the E. There's the E. It's like an accent mark over the carrier or the consonant. The carrier counts as a consonant, I guess, but there's nothing there. Silent E, though, here it is. We're going to do dade, D-A-D-E. These words I'm using, they may not make any sense, but I'm just using it so we can stick with the D. So D, A over a carrier, D, and then E over a carrier. Next, that's the way I showed you first with dad. Now we just added the E of the carrier at the end. Then here's D, A over D, and then E with a carrier. E over a carrier. So that's D-A-D-E also. Now you've got the D-A over D with a silent E at the bottom. So you can do a silent E by putting a single dot under the consonant that it follows. So most people would do it this way. You'll notice that a lot. There'll be a single dot under a consonant that's supposed to be a silent E. Now, I will also add that we have seen E's that aren't silent done this way. So that doesn't matter. I mean, when we look at J.R.R. do it, he wrote the word herein with a silent E after the R. He wrote it under the R. He put a little dot under the R. But in the real world, when we see people write things, and on some of those practice things or those first drafts that we saw that J.R.R. wrote, we saw quite a few dots that would represent a non-silent E. So what I'm saying is that dot under a consonant, you should use it with silent E, but if you use it with an E that's not silent, who cares? We're going to know what it says. Mm-hmm. So that's that. So the dot under the silent E could be a non-silent E. Next, doubled vowels. There are several ways to do doubled vowels, just like there are several ways to do everything else. Right here, we've got deed, the word deed. D, E carrier, E carrier, D. D, E, E, D, deed. And here we are where it's D, E carrier, and then we've got an E above this. It's almost like you only, like this one, if this one was gone, and say D-E-D, right? So D-E-D, but you've got another E. So you can do it that way too. There's a whole lot of times where you have two vowels after each other, and you put one of them on a carrier and one of them above the next consonant. That's going to happen to you a lot. You're going to be wondering, oh, is that a diphthong or what? So we're going to get to diphthongs next. But Taz, yesterday when we were all writing each other's stuff, Taz did this way. You'll notice that Taz did this. He wrote D, E, E, D. This is only useful because it's the same letter. You wouldn't want to do this with two different ones. If you do, we'd know what you said, of course. But the fact that you've got two of the same one and you can't really confuse which one's which is the reason why you can put both of them over the following consonant. Now, Matt doesn't do this. He when he has words like that, he puts them separately like this, or he puts them like this. He never does this. And that's because sometimes, for instance, in the black speech, whenever you've got the the last syllable there, that UK, has a circumflex over it. And in the black speech, Tolkien did a double U, which in black speech there is no O. So it's kind of weird, but the black speech, you use the O, Tehtar, for the U. But since it's got the circumflex over it, he did it twice to show stress. So you may think that's two U's if you didn't know any better. So that's for that reason, Matt does two individual ones, or like this. Mm-hmm. However, the majority of people are going to do it like this. And again, any of the three ways, we're going to know what you're talking about. You're going to know, say that all the time. I just keep on saying it. That way people will know. If you do what you think is messing up, it's not really messing up. And even if we would consider it messing up, we're going to know what you said and we're going to be able to fix it for you. So that's the doubled vowels. And when we get to doubled consonants, it's a little different. So final Y. You remember how the silent E was a single dot under a consonant. The final Y, you can put a double dot. So here's DD. Now, this is like a made-up word. I don't know if that's a real word, but I just did this. So to stick with the same thing above, I copied all three of these. D-E-E-D, like that. And then I added the Y over the carrier because that's the Y over the carrier from right here. So then I added the Y with the carrier. And then right here, I did it this way. D, E carrier, E over D, D, E carrier, E over D. And then I added the Y carrier to the end. And then I did it this way right here, D, and then two E carriers over a D, just like before, and then added the Y carrier there. So this right here, this whole row is the same as this row, adding a Y carrier to the end of it. So that's three ways that you could write DD. Now here I swapped the Y carrier for the final Y underdot. So when I read some of these books, it says it's for final Y, but again, we've seen this double underdot not at the end. It's usually used whenever it's considered like a vowel, but the double underdot, when you see two dots, when you see one dot under a consonant, that's an E. When you see two dots under a consonant, that's a Y. And things like lambe, which is L. Lambe looks kind of like a T, but it's an L. Sometimes you'll put the dots inside it. And then the Roman, which is an R, you'll see two dots inside it. And I'll show you that in a second. It's not that tough. So there are no long vowels in Tolkien's languages, like a consonant or a vowel is always ah, as in father. E is always as in get. I is always e, as in machine. O is always oh, as in Gollum. And U is always oo, as in like a double O or during, So there's only one vowel sound in the Elvish languages like that. And then to make the other vowel sounds, you combine vowels, and as they diphthong, which means two vowel sounds in one syllable crushed together, make a different vowel sound. We're going to go. So in English, you can, if you wanted to write this right here, this dade, where I wrote dade, you could put the carrier twice as long and we would know that's not dad, it's dade. Like, the English rules for having a long A. When Tolkien's talking about long vowels, he isn't talking about changing the noise, changing the pronunciation. Tolkien, when he says long, he means that you hold the vowels out longer. Like if you saw, let's say GOF, that would be goth. But if you saw a GOF and there was a accent over the O, it'd be goth. And if you saw a circumflex over the O, it'd be goth. It's basically, when he says long, he means time-wise. So moving on from that, all I wanted to say was that you can make the carrier longer to indicate in English that it is the long A, long E, long I sound. But when you do that in another language, in one of Tolkien's languages, it indicates that there's a diacritical mark over it if you were using the Latin/Roman alphabet. Any questions on this? This seem like it's okay?
I think so.
Okay. So moving on now to diphthongs. These seem like they may be a little confusing, but over here, all I'm doing is I'm explaining the English rules for diphthongs, but you don't need to look at that. But right here, here's my original list of A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y. And now I'm going to explain the diphthongs. Now, this is going to be one of those things where it takes you a little while to remember which one to use whenever you're doing it. But a diphthong is, the easiest way to say it is two vowels in one syllable making one noise. For instance, A-U, E-U, I-U, O-U. I do all these U's first because it's the hardest one. So the vowel one, which is the first vowel, you do a Tehtar, which is the normal way. You just take the Tehtar you're already used to doing and you stick it above, instead of sticking it above a consonant, you stick it above the second vowel. So there are Tengwar letters for the different vowels when you're doing a diphthong. For instance, this right here is the W Tengwar. So the U glide, the second vowel is called the glide vowel. Like this is a U glide. So the U glide is written using a W consonant. I don't know if you can hear that, but the garage door just started opening. So the U glide is written as a W consonant, which this is a W. This letter right here is a W. And the Tehtar over it is the leading. So basically, right here, you've got an A, which you already knew. This is the A. And it's over the W letter here. So A, W. So you write AU, such as Sauron. If you're going to write Sauron, you would write this right here. You'd have the S, and then you'd have an A, W, because there's no U, there's only W. So you use the W and the U interchangeably. So if you're going to write neutral, you would write E and the W. If you're going to write ruin, or that's actually not ruin, but if you're going to write some letter that's IU, since I can't spell, if you're going to write some letter, if you're going to write some word that uses that, and you can spell better than I can. So then you'll write, if you notice though, all those ones on the top, the Tehtar, are always these. That's the original one. And then the glide vowel, you're going to put, that's what's going to take up the character space on the page. And then you just put the Tehtar over it like you normally would with a vowel over a consonant. So two acceptable ways to write tout. So this is tout and this is tout using the Latin/Roman alphabet. So this is a T. And of all the consonants that you're going to write, the T is going to be the easiest because it's the top left one. So T, A over carrier, U over carrier, T. So that's tout. Then instead of writing the A with a carrier and the U with a carrier, here it is right here with an AU diphthong. So you can write T and then AU diphthong right here, T. The reason you do that is because you hear that that's still one syllable, tout. But if you were to say it slowly and intentionally separate the letters, it's this, tout. So you hear what the whole diphthong is doing. You're saying two short vowel sounds, but you're saying them so fast that they sound like a different sound. Tout. Ta, that's the A. Oot, there's the U. Tout. But we just say tout. And when it crushes them together, that is two vowels, one syllable. That's a diphthong. Over here, tout again. This is T, O carrier, U carrier, T, which is this one. And remember the OU and the OW are the same because there is no, this letter we're looking at is actually a W. It's not a U. So over here, instead of doing T and then O over a carrier, U over a carrier, and then a T, you can do T and then the OU diphthong and then a T again. So on all these, the one that takes the least amount of space and or the one that is most aesthetically pleasing are the ones that people are going to be doing most of all. But if somebody doesn't know any better, if somebody doesn't like the way it looks, they may do it the other way. And like I said, all ways are right. Okay, so first of all, do you get how it works?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to move down to the bottom. So I don't go through all of them real heavily But here are the Tengwar when you're doing the other diphthongs. Remember the Tehtar are always going to be the same. But if you're doing an A glide, it looks kind of like a C. If you're doing an E glide, that looks suspiciously like a carrier with a silent E under it, right?
Mhm.
That's the way you do an E glide. Now, the I glide, the reason I'm doing this way is because you're going to see some inconsistency here, even in Tolkien's writing. And I'm going to explain this a little bit better. In English, you'll see people say that you only use this. This Tehtar is called Anna, A-N-N-A, like the girl's name.
Mhm.
This Tehtar is called Anna. So most people will say use Anna for I glide. However, in Quenya, we see Tolkien using Yanta. This is Y-A-N-T-A. This is the name of this is called Yanta. So he used that for I glide in Quenya. I have not seen him use the Yanta as an I glide in English,
Mhm.
but in the real world, we see people using both. Matt has gone strictly to using Yanta for I glide, and we're actually still considering whether or not we would do that. But whenever I was learning this stuff better from Matt, he's the reason why he went to Yanta for I glide is to differentiate it from Y glide. So Y glide is always Anna. And
Mhm.
so if you're using the Anna for the Y glide, and you're using the Anna for the I glide, then you could be confused. And since there's another option for I glide, Matt chose to go with Yanta for the I glide. Now, again, since we've come to the conclusion that Tolkien never wrote English using Yanta, you could argue you should use Anna for I glide, but whatever, it doesn't matter. So you'll see, like this word right here, like if we were going to write Belagire, Belagire, the name of the sea, we would write it this way. It'd be B-E-L-E-G, and then this diphthong, and then an R, Belagire. Right here, Teglin, the river in Beleriand,
Mhm.
Teglin. There's the E and the I. So you'd write a T, and then this diphthong, and then Glin. Or you could do it this way. You could do this diphthong or this diphthong because both of them are right. But it's those are in another language. But I'm just saying if we're going to write it using straight,
Mhm.
then right here, Edine. So you could do it this way, and that'd be an A over the Anna, or you could put the A Theta over the Yanta for Edine. For be instead of being an Anna here, it'd be a Yanta.
Mhm.
You'll see this a lot because a lot of words end in AY, like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. You'll always see this. There's the A Theta over the Anna Tengwar. So the Y glide is actually the Y consonant, just like the U glide and the W glide are actually the W consonant. So for those two glide vowels, if you're going to write wow, you would write this Tengwa here,
Mhm.
and then you would write this O W. Like for instance, this right here is W, and then this is OW. That word that says W O W. Wow. Right? There's the OW.
Mhm.
And since that is the consonant for W, you just stick another one in front of it and you've written the word wow. For day, you remember whenever I was first showing you, like that's a D right here.
Mhm.
There's day. So down here, you've got D, E over carrier, A over carrier, D, dead. But instead of doing this E carrier, A carrier, you could do the EA diphthong. D, EA diphthong, D, dead. This is the way most people would write it. So both of them are right. And if you can't remember this one, just do that. Same thing over here. You got day, D, A carrier, Y carrier.
Mm-hmm.
And then right here, you've got D, AY diphthong. That's what you'll see this written a lot. You'll see SUN, DAY, that type of stuff. So again, both of them are acceptable. None of them are wrong. And you'll have people say, oh, you should have done this. It doesn't matter. You can or you can't. And there'll be people who are just being helpful by doing it. Then there's going to be people on the internet that are trying to show they know stuff, right? So anyway, so that's that. Now, this right here is the hardest page of all because it's the one where it actually teaches why the Tengwar work the way they are. So I'm going to go through this really fast, but I'm going to explain it as well as I can. And you don't have to memorize. Matter of fact, you don't have to memorize any of this. I'm just making sure that you can understand what I'm talking about because this page explains why the Tengwar grid is laid out like it is. As soon as you understand this page, you don't need to go back to it anymore because then the grid will make sense forever. And then you just live on this grid of his. So the grid is separated. So first of all, when you look at the grid, the columns all have to do with the shape of your mouth, the shape of your lips, the shape of your tongue. That's what the columns are for, is just to show you how your mouth is arranged to make the noise. The rows are representing how the air escapes, and for every way that the air escapes, you can either vibrate your vocal cords as the air escapes, or you can not vibrate your vocal cords as the air escapes. So for every single consonant, there's a three-dimensional cube where there's only one way for all three, the X, Y, Z of this cube, to match up. And when you put your mouth in a certain way, that's the column. And when you vibrate your vocal cords as the air escapes in a certain way, that X, Y, Z makes one consonant sound and one alone. And so what he did was, since you can't represent a cube on a piece of paper, he's got a row for voiceless and a row for voiced. Voiceless is when you don't vibrate your vocal cords. Voiced is when you do vibrate your vocal cords. So the different ways of doing it are going to become pretty evident once I go over this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over dental series. The dental series is column 1 on the grid. Within column 1, dental series, everything has to do with your tongue on your teeth, between your teeth, or right behind your teeth. There's a right behind your teeth where it's called the part right behind your teeth is called the alveolar ridge. It's where, like, when you're eating cereal and it tears up the top of your mouth, that little spot that gets torn up, or whenever you burn yourself eating food, that little spot right there is the alveolar ridge. Now, Tolkien coupled the alveolar consonants with the dental consonants, which you can complain about that if you want to or not. But anyway, when you look at that column 1, these first 6 that I'm going to go over, they're all with column 1. And now row 1 and row 2 are plosives. So these right here are plosives. Plosive means what it sounds like. the air explodes out of your mouth. Remember when we were at the we were at the PPP Moot Tolkien conference this weekend, and I got up to the mic on stage and I said, plosive, real loud into the mic, and the mic like overdrove and made a big popping noise. That's because the air exploded out of my mouth. The microphone couldn't take it. That's a plosive. And I did it on purpose because it was funny. So plosive. So then looking at the column 1 dentals and row 1 plosive, non-voiced or voiceless, it's unvoiced. What you do to make that noise is if you, this is the T. So you put your tongue against your alveolar ridge right behind your teeth. The tongue is blocking the air from leaving your mouth. And then as you push the air, you just pull your tongue off and it makes the letter T. So you just go tut, 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 tut. So if you do that, then you'll have the dental because you're where your tongue is, the plosive because the air is exploding out of your mouth, and it is unvoiced because your vocal cords are not vibrating. So tut, 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 tut. That is dental, plosive, unvoiced, or voiceless. So I wrote that in red right here. So understanding that concept, everything I'm about to say all has to do with those 3 things. So the same exact thing, if you put your tongue in the same place to make the T and you blow the air out, pulling your tongue away, but instead of not vibrating your vocal cords, which makes the T, if you do the same exact thing and vibrate your vocal cords at the same time, you will not make a T, you will make a D. That is actually how you make the D noise, is by making the T noise while vibrating your vocal cords. So an easy way to figure that out, do this right now. Put your hands over your ears and say tut a few times, and then say dud a few times. And notice the only difference is that your vocal cords are vibrating. So I'm going to do it myself. Tut, 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 dud, dud, dud. You can hear that your vocal cords are vibrating on the D's. Do that.
Tut, tut, tut. Dud, dud, dud.
Can you hear it with your ears covered? You can hear that vocal, you can hear your vocal cords vibrating in your head when you say the D noise. So this is column 1, row 1, and column 1, row 2. So you can see these are both the same shape of your mouth, and they both are exploding the air out of your mouth, and the only difference between T and D is whether or not your vocal cords are vibrating. Got it?
Yeah.
Understanding that makes the next ones all super duper easy. Okay, so that's the plosives. Now we're going to move down to dental fricatives. Whereas the plosives are air exploding out of your mouth, fricatives are consonants where the air escapes your mouth through a small gap. It's called just plosive is called plosive because of the P, just like fricative, an F is a fricative. So since these are dental, you're still using your teeth. So this first one with the theta symbol here, this is a fricative TH, as in the word thin, like saying Matt is thin, Chad is thin. We're not fat, right? So thin. That is a dental fricative, voiceless or unvoiced. So that is the TH of thin. And then the voiced version of it uses the EV symbol, and that is the TH of then. So the voiceless is thin and voiced is then. So this is like that girl is thin, and this right here is like she was thin back then, right? So if you do the same thing, put your hands over your ears and say thin, and then say then, you'll notice again that the difference is that your vocal cords are only vibrating on the second one. So I'm going to do it right now. Then, 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 then. You do it.
Then, then.
Same basic idea, right? And it's fricative because if you just hold your tongue on your teeth there and you just do the TH noise, the air will escape through the spaces in your teeth and around your tongue. That's why it's fricative, because it's escaping through small gaps. Like I'm going to try to make the noise where the computer can hear it. I'm going to go, did you hear that? I've got my tongue between my teeth, stopping the air, but I push the air so much that it still escapes. That's how the TH is made. Fin, then, fin, then. You know, that's voiceless voiced. So that's how the fricatives work. Coming down, nasals and approximates. You don't even have to worry about whether they're voiced or not. They're all voiced. All nasals are voiced. All approximates are voiced. So first, a nasal. So basically, another thing I want to say. This was row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4. I'm sure you can pick up on the pattern and realize this is going to be row 5. So dental, nasal, voiced, there's only voiced, is the N. So basically, on nasals, they're called nasals for a good reason. Your tongue so basically a nasal just means the air is coming out of your nose, not your mouth. So there's a nasal N, which you put your tongue in the same place as though you were going to say the T or the D, alveolar ridge, but instead of pulling your tongue away and saying tut or dud, you keep your tongue there and let the air escape your nose, and it sounds like the letter N. So if we say none, none, if you just hold out that N, I've got my tongue blocking the air from leaving my mouth and it's coming out of my nose, right? And it's got a long way to travel on me because my nose is super big, but the N noise comes out of your nose, and you have to make it voiced, because if not, it's just breathing, right? If I push air out of my nose without vibrating my vocal cords, it's just exhaling. So that's the nasal. So dental, nasal, voiced, there's no unvoiced, is N. None, none. So that one's good enough. We'll move on. Dental, approximate. An approximate is a consonant that seems like it's going to be a vowel. They're like vowel-like sound and mouth position. R, we say R. I know you say ah, right? but this is all based off of your pronunciation, not ours, you know. So whenever I say something, it's one thing I'm having to tell all of the Americans is think British, don't think US, right? So it's going to be easier for you in that case because you're already thinking British, obviously. So we've got dental, approximate, R. If you put your mouth like you're going to say the R, ah, it looks like you're going to make an A. Like you're going to go ah, right? It sounds like the A. R in the UK sounds like A. But we're talking about, like, if you were to say roar, the first R, like we would say roar, you would say raw, you know, like the last R is not quite pronounced like we do. And even in the South, we say it a whole lot differently than the people in the North. And the Northerners sound a little more like y'all than we do. So, and notice I threw the y'all in there for you. So even though I noticed a whole bunch of y'all are starting to say y'all. So anyway, coming down here. Okay, so that's it. That's the entire first column. We had 6 letters in the first column, and you see how it works. That first column is all dental based ones, And then the rows represent the different ways of making the noises. So we had T, D, theta, ev, nasal, none, and then R. So there's the 6 rows of the first column. Now we're going to move over to column 2, and we're going to do those 6 rows.
Mhm.
The rows are all going to be working the same, but the only difference here is instead of using your teeth and your alveolar ridge to make the letters, you're using your lips.
Mhm.
So the first one is a labial plosive, voiceless / unvoiced. Some people say voiceless, some people say unvoiced. So it's the same thing.
Mhm.
But if you close your lips and you say pup, basically you're filling your mouth with air, and you're opening your lips and letting the air out, and it makes the letter P. Puh,
Mhm.
puh, puh. Just like the T, just like you did the T, you did that with your tongue. This time you're doing it with your lips. So the only difference between column 1, row 1, and column 2, row 1, is that column 1 used your tongue, column 2 used your tongue against your teeth, column 2 uses your lips.
Mhm.
So pup, pup, and surprise, surprise, voiceless. What do you think the only difference between making a P and making a B are?
Would that be using your vocal cords?
That's exactly right. So if you put your lips just like this and you say pup, and then you put your lips just like that and you say bub with your hands over your ears, you'll notice pup is unvoiced, bub is voiced. So I'm going to do it right now. Put my hands over my ears, pup, 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 bub, bub, bub. And you'll notice that. So do you do that?
Pup, 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 bub, bub, bub.
You can feel it vibrating in your head.
Mhm.
It's hard to feel it if you don't put your hands over your ears. That's why I tell you to put your
Mhm.
hands over your ears all day. So then moving on, because that was simple. Now we're going to move on to row 3 and 4, fricatives, which fricatives are air escapes rather than explodes, right? So
Mhm.
the fricative for the labial fricative voiceless is F. And that is it's still labial, even though it's kind of dental labial, but it's
Mhm.
labial because your top teeth are on your bottom lip. And then you push air through your teeth and air escapes, making the F noise like this. Right? I've got my teeth on my lip, just like in the picture. You got the teeth on the
Mhm.
lip, and it's making that. The only difference between F and V is voiceless versus voiced. The same exact way. So what's neat about this is that you can put your mouth like you're going to say F, try to push out an F, but vibrate your vocal cords, and the V comes out. That's just it's the physiology of how it's the way that the noises work. You know,
Mhm.
it's not, it doesn't really even have to be called F and V. It's just when you do this with your body, this sound will come out. So let's do the F, let's do fuff and vuv. Fuff, 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 vuv, vuv, vuv.
Fuff, fuff, fuff. Vuv, vuv, vuv.
Makes sense?
Mhm.
Next, row 5 is the nasal. The same way that we used our tongue to stop the air from escaping our mouth, and we vibrate our vocal cords, pushing air out of our nose for the N, here you're using your lips. And it's strange that it sounds different because using your tongue and pushing air out while vibrating sounds like an N noise. Using your lips and pushing out makes an M noise. So do mum that way with your ears covered, and you'll notice that the air is coming out of your nose and your vocal cords are vibrating.
Mum.
Makes sense?
Mhm.
Again, if you didn't vibrate your vocal cords, you would just be exhaling with your mouth closed. So as opposed to those mouth breathing people, right? So anyway, approximate, just like we had the approximate dental earlier, right here we've got the approximate labial, because with the W, you kind of purse your lips a little bit like you're going to make an O sound. Remember earlier you made the R and it's like you're going to make an A sound. Right here you're making a W and it's like you're going to make an O sound. Your mouth is shaped like you're making an A when you make an R. Or let me rephrase that for you. Your mouth is shaped like an A when you're going to make an ah. So, and your mouth is shaped like an O when you're going to make a W, because you actually roll your lips together a little bit. So, wah, wah, wah. I'm not, like wah, wah is kind of like O, O, except whenever you make the O, your lips start open and they close as you make the O. And with W, your lips start closed and open as you make the W. So, O, wah. So it's the opposite. But that's why it's called an approximate, because it is approximately like making a vowel. Good? Next, column 3. Now, I mispronounce this word constantly, and you know how I'm about pronunciation. This is supposed to be pronounced Velar, and I always accidentally say Velar. So, column 3, Velar means that your tongue not right up against your teeth is how you make the noise. You can argue that you can say, oh, I can do it this way. But I was talking to Tanya Plashkova about that last night, and she said, well, I make the noise with my tongue right up on my teeth. And I was like, whenever I first started looking at all this stuff, I thought the same thing, because especially these first two, I make them with my tongue really there. But you can tell what he meant, and I guess all the philologists think this way, but it is a little different because your tongue is further back. It still works, whereas with the dentals, it needs to be towards the front of your mouth. So we're just going to move on. Velar, plosive, voiceless. This is the TCH, as in church, like Chad, like my name. So CH. So a velar, this is column 3, row 1. That is CH. And all this, everything I'm doing right here is because this is the way it's going to look on the grid. And once you understand all this, the grid becomes pretty easy. It makes it where you can quickly find things on the grid because you know how the letter is made. So church is voiceless plosive. You're still exploding the air out of your mouth, but your tongue is further back, or it could be, and then it's voiceless because you're not vibrating your vocal cords. J, as in not the Scandinavian J, but the judge J, like what we say. Your mouth is shaped the same way for J as it is for CH. So you've got church and judge. So do the little cover your ears thing and say church and judge.
Church, judge.
You hear your mouth is the same, but your vocal cords change it. So that is column 3, row 1, row 2. 1 and 2 are plosives. 3 and 4 are always fricatives. And here we go, the fricatives. Remember, the plosive is exploding, fricative is escaping. So this is shush, voiceless, and zh, like as in measure or collision or collusion. So do shush and measure.
Shush, measure, or zhuzh.
Zhuzh, exactly. Yeah. See, I was going to do that, but I didn't know how to write that down for people to understand. I actually thought about saying zhuzh, but for people to even know what the heck I was writing, I was talking about. So I did measure. So anyway, but zhuzh is better if you know the word. If you can recognize the word written, zhuzh is better, right? Okay. The approximate for the velar is the Y, as in as in the Scandinavian J, the yeah, like you or yes or yesterday. That approximate because yeah, it's almost like you're making a diphthong of IE. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, right? Because the I is the letter I is E and the letter E is eh. So if you say those together, yeah, that's a Y sound, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's an approximate. So the approximate, so just like always, the nasals and the approximates are always voiced. Notice there's not a nasal for the velar here.
Mm-hmm.
That's the English thing. Some languages have noises that represent certain things and some don't. English does not have a velar nasal. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if other languages do or not because I don't know. American people don't know two languages, even when they say they do. So, fourth column, labiovelar. Now, this is a little weird, but labiovelar is you start out with your velar, meaning that the letter starts in the back of your throat, on the back of your mouth, I mean, and then at the end, your lips take over and finish it. It's kind of the consonant equivalent to a diphthong.
Mm-hmm.
Two consonant noises at once making it. Now, what's weird is when I start explaining all these, you won't see anything that says labiovelar, and the reason why is because all of these things are named off of the quenya because quenya came first, right? Quenya is the
Mm-hmm.
Latin. So the quenya words, the letters are named after quenya words, and the very top one on this one is quese, which quese is quenya for feather. Remember
Mm-hmm.
the other day, Andrew Stenstrom asked us that really hard trivia question, and quese is feather, which we now know was the answer to his trivia question. So quese, Q. If you were to say the Q, you start off by saying a K, and then you close your lips and open them back up to make it say the W. So you're like que,
Mm-hmm.
That's labiovelar, but you'll notice in this entire column the K doesn't exist. I mean, the Q doesn't exist, but that's because the K, what is a Q in Quenya is a K in English. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then you do a little something different to make a Q, which I'll show you in a little while. So, labiovelar, column 4, plosive, which is column 1, or which is row 1 and 2. Row 1 is K. Now you see how I wrote C and K, but the slash K slash, that's the IPA, the international pronunciation.
Mm-hmm.
That is a C or a K when it sounds like a K. In other words, there is no C. There's only K. So when you say Celeborn, or you say cook or call me, that C is a K C. It's a K type C.
Mm-hmm.
So you would use this Tengwar to represent that C, just like you would represent a K with that Tengwar. So what do you believe? So that's labiovelar, plosive, voiceless. K, k, k. G, same mouth shape, same explosion of air past your tongue, but instead of having your tongue up on your alveolar ridge to make the T, you use the back of your tongue against the top of your palate of your mouth and pull it away to make the k, 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 right? So you had the t, 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 and then you had the k, k, k.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you vibrated your vocal cords on T, you made a D. If you vibrate your vocal cords on K, you make a G. So we have cook, and gag, or goog. So you do cook and gag with your hands over your mouth, or your ears, man.
Over my mouth.
Yeah, or your mouth. It don't matter. So,
Cook, cook, cook. Gag, gag, gag.
And again, you can tell the difference is vocal cords.
Yeah.
That's row 1 and 2. Next, you're going to have, this one's a little hard to get across because it's supposed to be letting the air escape, but it's kind of weird because it's not really doing it that way because it's afterwards. So you'll remember in our chat, somebody, I think it was Sean, he wrote a CH this way when it was supposed to be Christian. He was writing, remember he was writing the lyrics to Sister Christian, the song.
Mm-hmm.
So this CH is a K and a H. It is a labiovelar, meaning that it starts off in the back, ends at the front. But basically, this CH is the CH of words like Bach or Loch. So when I was teaching this to Tanya, it was easy for her because Russian actually has that sound. Americans don't ever say Bach right? We always just say the K. We just go Bach. We don't ever go Bach or Loch, or Khazad-dûm, right? So labiovelar, column 4, fricative, which is row 3 and 4. Row 3 is the voiceless C or K and then an H, and that is make sure you do the H afterwards. There's a different one when CH is meant to not have the H sound. And I'll show you that in a little while. But CH is, that's the K followed an H like Bach or Loch. And I'm doing it hard so you can hear it. The GH is a voiced version of the KH where you still hear the H afterwards, but the fact that you do the G makes it be vocalized, just like this, the K and the G plosives are the differences non-vocal and vocal. Now you got CH and GH, which are the same exact difference, right? So you do the Bach and the ghost. There's also a gast. So if that one's easier, a gast, you could do that. So do those.
Bach, ghost.
Can you hear the difference in the?
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to say the H for us. We are so used to not doing it that it's hard for us to do it. The last one, this is the very last thing on those 24. We just went through the 24 top cells. The nasal, this one right here is going to get easy quick because you use it all the time. Nasal NG, as in wing. Basically, you're going to, every time you write anything that ends with an ing, you're going to have this ng. You're going to have this ng one there. So this is a single tengwa, which covers the N and the G. Just like this one right here is a single tengwa letter that covers a C and a H. This is a single tengwa that covers a G and a H. Up here, we had a few more that way. It's one Elvish letter that actually represents 2 English letters because it's based off of the sound. It's kind of weird because we're talking orthographically, and yet there's still some phonetics that are tied into it, right? Okay, so now that you understand all that, and it seems to me like you understand it well, right?
Yep.
Okay, we're done. Because as soon as you understand that, you don't ever have to go back to it. The whole reason this long, drawn-out explanation is there is so you understand when I'm talking about it on here. Because this is me explaining J.R.R. Tolkien's grid. So, column 1, dental. Column 2, labial. Column 3, velar. Column 4, labiovelar. Row 1, plosive voiceless. Row 2, plosive voiced. Row 3, fricative voiceless. Row 4, fricative voiced. And then the nasals and approximants are always voiced. So everything I explained them in order this way. I think that. So there's t, d, th, the, n, r, p, b, f, v, m, w, ch, j, sh, Z, y, k, g, then k, g, and ng. That's the whole thing.
Mhm.
So as soon as you understand that, that is just referencing this previous page. Now, everything below here is the final element in getting you to understand exactly what you're looking at on JRR's grid. And I've got 4 explanations here. Each one of the Elvish Tengwar, there are 4 elements. So I separated those 4 elements into 4 different explanations here. Each Tengwar has a stem, which he calls a telko. The stem is the stem when you're writing it. So basically, if we come here, that's the stem, right? I'm going to do a T. I'm going to do the T, which, remember, this T is the first one. It's a dental, plosive, voiceless. I'm going to do the T. So if I'm doing a T, dental, plosive, voiceless, the stem goes down. So that's why I did down, right? Then, how many bows does it have? A bow is a luva. So dental, plosive, voiceless, it has 1 bow. And the bow for a dental, plosive, voiceless goes to the right. So it's 1 right-facing bow. Now the last thing, is the bow open or closed? Dental, plosive, voiceless is open. That means we're finished. That is a T. Get it? All right. Get all that off there. Let's go down to the next one, which is D. We know that D was the voiced version of a T, right? So we've got a down stem again, right? And we have right facing, but 2 bows still open. So, whereas that was a T, voiced, that's a D. Notice the only difference between the T and the D is a T, because it's voiceless, is 1 bow, and a D, because it's voiced, is 2 bows. This right here tells you it's a plosive because the stem is going down. And this right here tells you it's voiced. So every plosive, the stem goes down. The first 2 columns, the bows face to the right. The second 2 columns, they face to the left. And voiceless is 1, voiced is 2. Okay. So let's do one that's a little harder. Let's do this one, GH, ghost. Since we did the very easiest one, let's do the very hardest one. Labio-velar. Actually, let's do it here. That way I don't jump too far ahead for you. So we're going to go, let's do V. Labial, fricative, voiced is V. Labial, fricative, voiced. So if I go labial, fricative, voiced, it's an upward facing stem, right? Labial, fricative, voiced, it's still right facing. So like that. Labial, fricative, voiced. There are 2 bows because it's voiced, like that. And labial, fricative, voiced. The bows are closed, like that. That's a V. Labial, fricative, voiced. Labial, fricative, voiced is a V. So that is a V. Got it?
Yeah.
Is that confusing at all?
No.
I'm not asking if you're memorizing all this. I'm just asking if it makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay. So
closed is a line across the bottom, basically.
Right. Well, you'll notice that the reason I did that is because you've got the ones that face the right, they're open on the bottom. This gave Tanya a little bit of confusion here. The ones that face the left,
Open on the top.
they're open on the top.
Sure.
The reason why you don't do it this way, like that, is because that's just a mirror. And Tolkien actually said that some people wrote things mirrored, like some elves actually wrote things mirrored, especially if they were like left-handed versus right-handed. And then some places, but basically, if you mirror it, you can still read it. But right here, no matter what you do, mirroring this, that does not look the same. These do. So the ones that are facing left are also upward opened, right? So now let's go to one. I'm going to get you to figure one of them out, okay? Labiovelar voiced plosive. Let's do the G. How do I write a G? Since I want to write a G, labiovelar voiced plosive. Okay, so labiovelar voiced plosive. Which way does the stem go?
Down.
Down, right? Because that's the G. Labiovelar voiced plosive, down. So stem down, right? Okay. Direction of bows.
Left.
Left bow. How many bows? Labiovelar voiced plosive.
2.
2. So I said it's supposed to be down, and I drew it this way. So down. So we've got the down stem, 2 left facing bows. Okay. And is it open or closed?
Closed.
Closed. That's G. Make sense? All right. Okay. So since you get what we're doing here, let me show you a little bit of a pattern. You'll notice every plosive, the stems are down. Every fricative, the stems are up. The other ones don't have a stem. So the direction of the bows for the first 2 columns go to the right. Notice the first 2 columns don't have anything to do with velar. So the ones that use the back of your mouth go to the left. The ones that use the front of your mouth go to the right. Velar is what makes stuff go to the left. Voiceless is always 1 bow. Voiced is always 2 bows. Now, when you get down to the nasals and approximants, you can't follow that rule because approximants are also voiced. So they're outliers because nasals and approximants are both voiced. They're outliers. But for the top 4 rows here, voiceless is 1, voiced is 2. And then are the bows open or closed? Well, if it has nothing to do with your lips, then they're open. If it has something to do with your lips, then they're closed. So the dental are open and the straight velar are open. The labial and the labiovelar are closed. So you can see here, velars make you face to the left and labials make you close. Right? So this is where we are on this. And then go look at JRR's grid. So at this point, I've explained everything here. All this stuff below there is the only things that remain. So far, you've learned everything except for those ones that I don't have highlighted. So it says, go look at JRR's grid and set all of that to memory. Try and write simple words using those 24 consonants in Tengwar. Do not move on until you're reasonably proficient with the first 24 Tengwar and the vowel Tehtar. So come over here. Let's say, see if you can figure out a couple of these. What does that say?
Hang on.
Let's go back over here.
Yeah.
We'll come to, let me come over to this. Here's the grid.
Tat.
That says tat. That's exactly right. T-A-T, tat.
Mhm.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now, if I did the same thing, hang on, sounds like, so if I did the same thing here, but I did this, what does that say?
Dad.
Yeah. The only difference between tat and dad,
Voiced.
voiced. Good?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a little tougher one. Okay, so
Mhm.
downward stem means plosive.
Mhm.
Left facing means it's one of the right two columns. Correct?
Mhm.
One bow means not voiced. Close.
Cat.
Do what?
Is it cat?
Yes. C-A-T. Cat. Good?
Uh-huh.
I think you're getting it. Okay. So I'm going to come back over here. So here's the grid explanation that we just left.
Mhm.
The remaining consonants don't follow that easy to follow pattern. Like
Mhm.
that pattern is, it's only for those first 24. So I'm going to go over the rest of these pretty quickly. But what's weird is the ones that don't follow the pattern end up being easier than the ones that follow the pattern because the pattern ones get a little confusing sometimes. Matter of fact, the main thing I screw up these days is when I mean to write a G, I forget to do that. That's a G. That's a J.
Mhm.
The main thing that I mess up these days is that. And like I do it because I'm just writing fast, you know, like I write stuff fast I'll write something to Matt and I'll do it real fast. And then right as I hit send, I go, oh man, I forgot to put that thing. Yeah, I do that. I still do that. So anyway, that's the main thing I still mess up. But on these are basically everything that remains. So first of all, earlier, so you learned the where am I? You learned the R earlier for the this ore. This is actually part of the grid stuff. If you look up here at the grid here, this R is called ore. This follows the pattern. Okay. So I say you learned it and we didn't talk about it, but it's actually on that chart. So all so this is the ore. This is R when it does not preceding a vowel. So when there's a vowel after the R, you use Roman. That's the name of this character is Roman. And if you look right here, I've got the IPA pronunciation, but this R called Roman resembles our lowercase y is used for R preceding a vowel. Whereas this one is R not preceding a vowel, such as preceding a consonant. So the word fort, there's a F-O-R-T, right? For this is preceding a silent E. You don't really consider it preceding a vowel when it's preceding a silent E. So this is F-O-R-E. And if it's the last letter where it's not preceding anything, there's F-O-R. So I took 3 F-O-R words and I put a T, a silent E, and nothing. All of those are using ore. Now, coming down to the Roman, that is R when it is preceding a vowel. So I took the F-O-R and I put an A at the end, F-O-R-A. So you notice that I changed from the ore to the Roman because there's a vowel after it.
Mm-hmm.
So you can use it to precede silent E. See right here, since Roman is normally used for preceding a vowel, you can use it for silent E. So for this fore, or four, I'm speaking Elvish here. So when for four here, you could do it this way. And if you did that, you would put the dot inside the loop at the bottom of the Roman where it looks like a Y, you know, it looks like our Y. So Matt likes to do that. He likes, it's pretty to put the dot inside the Y like this. So let me make that a little prettier. Matt likes to do that because that right there is R-E. It's not wrong. You can do it. You can do it this way. Both of them are right. But you normally see it this way. But this is prettier. So he likes to do that. Okay, so back to this. So the main thing is you're going to notice that R preceding a vowel is always this one. And usually people do this one when it's not preceding a vowel. Okay, coming down, quese. So this quese, the K sound from earlier, this is actually on the grid. But the quese, and I don't know why I added this to it, but I do know why. Okay, so the reason I did this because remember earlier we said quese was for a C or a K when it sounds like K. Cook, K-O-O-K. Cook, K, or C-O-O-K, which is a K, right? So when it sounds like a K, you do that. Now, the whole reason I did this is because there's two C's, the S and C. Whenever you're going to make an S sound, when you're going to go sibilant, when you're going to do the S sound, this is the silme. Silme. Silme is the name of this character, and you use it for S when it sounds like an S. So S-I-S is S-I-S, and it's kind of leaned over to get that in there. But you can do nuquerna, silme nuquerna. Nuquerna is quenya for inverted. So upside down. Basically, this upside down is nuquerna. And most of the time people do that so they can make room to put a Tehtar over it. So normally you'll see us do the silme when we're going to do an S that does not have to have a Tehtar over it. And you'll see us invert it to a silme nuquerna when there's an S that needs a vowel above it. So that's the silme nuquerna. Right here I'm writing S-I-S. Now, when C sounds like an S, remember earlier I said there is no C. So up here you use K when it sounds like a K. Right here you use a silme nuquerna when it sounds like an S. So the word city, there's a silme nuquerna, and then an I Tehtar, and then the tinko for the T, and then there's the Y above the carrier. City. Now, I could put double dots under there. I didn't even think about it, but it could be silme nuquerna, the I Tehtar, then the tinko for the T, and then you could put the double under dot for the ending Y. I should have done that. Matter of fact, I may do that. So I may add that just so when the next person sees it, it'll be there. Okay. So now you see the two C's. Now I'm going to move on. There's actually two S's. There's an S that sounds like an S, and there's an S that sounds like a Z. So most people use silme for a, that's supposed to say S sound. This right here should be, yeah, I need to fix that. So then here we go with the esse. Esse kind of looks like a Z. So this is a Z or an S when it sounds like a Z. Just like a while ago we had the S or a C when it sounds like a S. Now we're going to do Z or S when it sounds like a Z, such as is or zero. This is a Z that sounds like a Z. This is an S that sounds like a Z. So this is, you can write you can put the I theta over the esse. Tengwar, right? That's is. Now, the same way, see how there's hardly any room to put the I theta above the esse. So here's esse nuquerna, which is esse inverted, upside down. It's the same thing, you just inverted. Matter of fact, I haven't run across a time when I needed to write esse yet. I've run across a bunch of times when I needed to write esse nuquerna. So S, when it sounds like a Z, I would write it this way instead of this way because this makes more room. And it's not that tall either. That's just like, I don't have room on this Excel sheet to do it, but it's actually, maybe I should make these things go to the top here. Like, anyway, so that's is and whiz. There's the W-I-Z. So esse is for S or Z when it sounds like Z, just like silme is for S or C when it sounds like S. Now, after that, right down here, here is all the H sounds that we've gone over already, right? So here's thin, then, church, shush here. There's zhuzh, like you said. Here's Bach. Here's ghost. These are new. When you have a T followed by a silent H, Thomas, then that is part of shorthand. And what it is, this is a T, right? That's a T. And it sounds like a T, right? This, that was Tenko. So right here, you extend it both directions, and that shows you that it's TH sounding like a T. It's very, very rare that you need this, but basically this shows you that this is actually a TH that only sounds like a T. Shorthand. So I get all that stuff off the screen. Come back to here. And you see, basically, a Tenko is a T. So you're basically making the Tenko there and then extending it upwards to show, hey, it's a TH, but it sounds like a T. This one that looks exactly like our Latin D is when, and the H is vocalized. So like I was saying to Tanya last night, like most of us don't pronounce the H in the word when or what or where. The only person I've seen that does lately is Stewie off of Family Guy. But like when, like Stewie on Family Guy is like when, you know. So
whip.
Yeah, whip. So the main thing that I was messing up when I was doing that is I wasn't closing it up. I would do this, then it doesn't sound, it doesn't look right because that's not right. But if you do, you remember the correct way of doing those is like that. So you're not going to confuse anybody because that's SH. This right here is nothing because this is actually this reversed. So that's actually a TH. But if you do this, then you know that's supposed to be a WH, right? I'm going through this pretty fast. You're not using those real often, but these are your two new ones. And then if none of these apply and you still have an H word, then you use this. So what does this say?
Hot.
Hot. Yeah.
Hot.
Yeah, this right here, that's an O.
Mm-hmm.
This is a U.
I had a 50-50.
Yeah. I get you. I should have done this. What does that say?
Hat.
That's exactly right. Okay. So we're done with all that. And so now here is the Q and the X. There's the way that you make a Q, and this is why those are called labiovelars, is because the quesse, which is the K,
Mm-hmm.
if you make a little squiggly above it, then it's a labialized quesse, which is this is the K, this is a KW.
Mm-hmm.
So cook, K-O-O-K, cook, C-O-O-K, same letters. Right here, you add that little squiggly above it and it becomes Q-U. So Q-U. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you saw, but this morning in the chat, Elizabeth wrote in there, I can't figure out what this last word is. That's because the word was equal and she didn't recognize this little squiggly for the Q.
Mm-hmm.
So this, if you're going to write equal, you put the E theta over the squiggly over the quesse. So this is Q-U-A-I diphthong.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll explain that in a second, but that's an NT. This is a nasalized NT. Here's queen. This is easier. Q-U-E-E-N.
Mm-hmm.
Labialized quesse, double E Tehtar over N Tengwar. Easy enough?
Mm-hmm.
Takes a little while to get used to, but I'm explaining it so you'll be able to understand whenever you're looking at it on the grid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's two different X's. And we discussed this in the chat yesterday also with Sean, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So you still make the K, which is the quesse, if you're going to make an X that sounds like a K, like Excel or Alex. So this is an A. This is a capital L. Notice that it's the L that's capitalized, not the A. It's because the A is just a theta, right? So then E theta over quesse with this downward facing hook off of the first bow, luva, right? So quesse with a hook is when you want to make a X that sounds like KS. Ungue with a hook is a GS. So there's two X's. There's an X that sounds like a KS in our language, and there's an X that sounds like a GS in our language. So Alex sounds like a KS, whereas Alexander sounds like a GS. So right here, there's A-L-E, ungue with a hook, and the hook comes off of the first luva, which I used to screw that up. When I was doing the G, when I put it off the second luva, that's not right. And then A-N-D-E-R. And you notice that's the ore because it's the final R. Get it? Makes good sense, right? Okay, so now here we go with the other consonant mods. Nasalization, which I just kind of hit on a little bit. So humble, H-U-M-B-L-E. There it is, completely spelled out using carriers. So the MB, instead of writing the M like this, which that's in the grid, and then the B, you can actually just put a line over the B, and that becomes MB. So H-U-M-B-L-E, this can be used for MB. This is called nasalizing the consonant. So mb. Basically, right before you say the B, you push air out of your nose, and that's it. Now you've spent one character space to get the MB out. And umbar in Quenya, the actual Tengwar, represents MB all the time. So these are based off of Quenya rules applied to the English orthographic, is what we're saying here. General mode. So here's another way to write humble. by the way, we don't say the H here in Texas. I don't know about over there, but H-U-M-B-L, and then that dot is the final silent E.
Mm-hmm.
So humble or umble, however you want to say it. U Tehtar over the nasalization M overline, and then the B Tengwar. Same thing with candle. The umble with the M, remember that was the labial nasal.
Mm-hmm.
Candle is the dental nasal. K-A-N-D-L-E. So you can put the line over the D, and then that lets you know that it's a nasalized D. So right before you say the D, you push air out of your nose to go "nd."
Mm-hmm.
Get that? And the ando works the same way in the Tengwar for the quenya, just like the umbar did. That's why it's done this way. So there's the K-A-N-D-L silent E. And I chose these two words because they're so similar.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's maybe not the best word for describing it, but it's the best word for describing them together.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. Frequent nasalizations. I just did a little examples here. There's MB, MD, which I don't know when there's an MD. There probably is, like lambda, maybe. So MP, MT, NC or NK, like bank. There's band. So if I was going to write band, see that right here, I would go band. There's the B. And then here's a D. There's an N, and there's an A. Right? B, A, N, D, band. Right? Okay, back to here. So the NG, this right here, you're going to get really used to that because everything that ends with an NG, every ING word, you're going to do that. You're going to boom, 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 I. That's ING, ING. Okay. So there's NT, which right below the MT. So basically that's easy stuff. Gemination, like as in Gemini, as in what I am on the astrological chart, which makes a whole lot of sense if you're superstitious, right? So gemination means you're doubling the consonant. It's a quick way to double the consonant. Basically, you add a line under it, make sure the line is not touching, because if it's touching, people will think that you closed the luva, right? Remember how I said that you use the Roman whenever it's preceding a vowel?
Yeah.
And you use the ore whenever it's preceding a consonant? Well, this is a consonant. R is a consonant, but it's preceding a vowel. So there's Roman preceding vowel. There's ore preceding consonant. So it's weird looking. That's why I did this. I forgot that I did this. I haven't read this in a little while. So R-E-F-E-R-R-I-N-G. So here's an opportunity to nasalize the G and then put the Tehtar over it. And then you've got a double R here. So the third R is the gemination. So these two together, you should just double it. So you can double either one, and people are going to know what you're saying. So right here, I've got the ore, and I've geminated it right here by putting the line under. Like I said, make sure you don't actually make the line touch, because then it's no longer a double R. It's something else, right? So this right here, the same way, R-E-F-E-R-R-I-N-G. Then we've got R-E-F-E-R-R-I-N-G. Get it?
Yep.
BB, here's a geminated B. So you've got the B, you put the line under it. That's double B. This right here is KK or CC or CK. We use this a lot for CK. A lot of words like BACK and TACK. So we use that a lot. So you'll see this quite a bit. Double D, which everybody knows how that goes. Double F, double G, so on and so forth. Double L, though, the lambe, you actually put the line inside. Now, you notice how that's not actually touching. We usually make it touch, but double M, double N. Now, you could argue that you could make the M and then put the line over it like it's a nasalized. Same way with the N. Anyway, there's double P, double ore, double silme, double tinko, double, this right here is the V with the line under it. You see how that's not touching? All these ones that the stem goes down touch. The double Z is kind of weird looking. I haven't really seen that. I guess you could write huzzah or something.
Jazzy.
Jazzy, there you go. Jazzy. I mean, that'd be kind of weird though. If you write jazzy, you would also have the final Y. So, that's something to think about, because we could write this the essay in the querna with the gemination line and the double underdot to make. So that'd be kind of weird, because if you wrote jazzy that way, let's just think about that. Here's J, that's J. And then the esse nuquerna, and then geminated, and then the Y, and then the A. So J, A, Z, Z, Y. Jazzy. It's kind of weird. That's kind of a weird one. I never thought about that before. It's a strange looking thing right here, you know.
Yeah.
Some people may not get it, but I mean, we should try that and see if Matt gets it. So anyway, years from now, we're gonna be looking at this video teaching somebody else, and they're gonna go, "What chat are they talking about?" Okay, so looking at this, tats. You got T-A-T-S. Final S, you can do a hook instead. So you can do silme for tats, T-A-T, silme nuquerna for tats. But most of the time you see this hook, T-A-T-S. So T, T-S, that right there indicates S. And it's supposed to be for plural, but just like that silent E we see for E's that aren't silent, that under dot E, we also see S's that just is a word ending in S. We see people do that. It's supposed to be plural, but who cares? I mean, no one's going to gripe if you do it that way. But this is the, here's some of the hooks. You could have like an A-S, E-S, I-S. Oh, these are all vowel ones. K-S, you notice it comes off the close, the luva closing deal there. That is downward facing. The S hook comes off the top right of all left facing plosives. That's a mouthful there. So there's TS. It's easier on these like this. TS. That's the Bach one. HS, LS, so on and so forth. On the L, it comes off of this instead of the top, because it may be confusing. You may not even realize there's an S there if you did it on the lambe.
Yeah.
And then the labialized W and U, there's a few instances of Tolkien making the wavy curl like a Q to represent a following W or U. So basically like the word to, TWO. Let me show you. I've seen this before. So here's T. And instead of doing this, which is perfectly fine, right? TWO. That's perfectly fine. There has been this before, which is TWO, making a little wavy thing. I didn't do it real well. I didn't do that wavy thing real well, but like that. Just like on the, that's a K and that's a Q.
Yep.
So there have been instances of Tolkien doing the wavy curl to make that U sound after things such as to, anguish. See, that's a good one. So quit makes sense because quit's supposed to be, I shouldn't even put that in there. So anguish would be, here's the G, right?
Mhm.
There's the U, and then you could do the SH, the I. So you would have like that. So there's A, N, G, W, I, S, H. It's a little weird. It's a little weird looking, right? Anyway, a little strange. You won't see that enough to worry about trying to remember it. That's it for that one. And now the last thing before we get to the grid itself, and then you're finished. Shorthand. See the D, this is the D, and then there's the N for labializing, or for nasalizing, not labializing, for nasalizing the D. And you just put the E. So it's like you're writing NDE. So there's D, there's ND, and then E. That actually means and. This is a shorthand way to quickly write the word and you're going to see and written this way a lot. Like all the time. All the time. The same way that you see that, you remember how to write the hard TH of the? This is the hard TH of the. That's TH, which Tolkien wrote that as DH. Like Mithros, when he wanted you to vocalize the TH and use the IPA pronunciation, he wrote DH so you would know that's supposed to be hard. Okay, like he wrote this for Thingol and he wrote this for Mithros, right? So the TH here, if you extend it, that's shorthand for the. Okay? Same way with the F for V. He's actually writing of, like what you would pronounce it. That's a V. So we say of, which, we don't talk right. But you would say, for the word to pronounce that, you would say of. Right? So this is a V. That's a V. Extend it. Now it's of. So we had, that's the, and this is of. Okay? If you geminate it, it's of the. So, oh gosh, okay. So let me do it this way, because this is what I did for Tanya last night. So let me do it this way. We have, here's TH, and here's the. Here is V, and here's of. Right? Now, geminate it, of the. Got it? All shorthand. And you're going to see those pretty much constantly. Every single time someone wants to write the, they do that. I often forget to do that with of, but okay, so here's that Thomas. There's that Tinko extended. So T and TH, but it still sounds like a T.
Yeah.
Same way with Panama, that's a P. If you extend it, that's a PH that sounds like an F. Kind of weird, right? So there's PH sound like this is writing phone. Okay, so there's that. Okay, you've learned everything for general orthographic mode. while still fresh, familiarize yourself with the tab. General orthographic, that's the A is just so it would go in order. General orthographic Tengwar all in one, and solidify why the grid works like it does. Most importantly, you should find another Tengwar practitioner and write to each other daily solely in Tengwar. So when Matt and I, when Matt was teaching me, because Matt actually was good at it already, he was relatively good at writing it, but he didn't have anyone to read from. And I didn't know any of it. So as he taught me how to write it, like I just did to you, I started writing to him, and that improved his reading skills. And then he was writing to me, which his writing was already perfect. And it was improving my reading skills. So with the pen pal, you perfect it really, really fast. And without a pen pal, it takes a long time. So that's it for that. Now let's go to the grid. Here's the grid with every single thing we've been talking about thrown together. You've got the series, which is your mouth position, which Tolkien called Temar. And then all of these are right-facing bows. All of these are left-facing bows. The labials, labial and labiovelar, since they both have the labial in there, they are closed. The ones that aren't labial are open luva bows. So here we have the plosives. This is unvoiced, voiced. This right here is the English letter. This is the IPA pronunciation, and I wrote as in tut, voiceless dental plosive. This is the name of the Tengwar letter, and this is how you write it. There's a couple of them I've got explanations, as in dud. I've got a couple explanations on there. K, quese, as in the C and K of cook, voiceless labiovelar plosive. So these numbers, right, this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the numbers, which I haven't taught you that, but it's just there. You shouldn't even try to attempt that till you get a little better at it. But there's the whole thing. And over here, I've got the descriptions of everything. And right here, I've got like a little legend for what everything means. Once you get past those, here's your Roman. Alda is not used. Lambe, Alda is not used. Now, notice this morning that that Tanya wrote a double L using Alda. It's not used in English, but we knew what it was because she just looked at this grid and wrote it off of that, which no big deal. If we were doing it, we would have done a lambe with the gemination in the middle, because in Quenya, this Alda actually means LD. So there's a couple of things like that. Here's your silme. Next to the silme nuquerna, the upside down one, there's your esse. Next to your esse nuquerna. Here's your hyarmen. This right here, the one where you make the when, like Stewie, WH, that is huesta sindarinma. There's the yanta, which you notice here I wrote mostly used for I-glide diphthongs, such as there. Sometimes used for consonantal Y when anna Y is used for the final or vowel Y. Wouldn't worry about that. So yanta is, you're going to mostly see yanta. Well, actually, what you're going to mostly see yanta in is going to be for the I-glides as the I. And if you look at the Holland Gate of Moria, you'll see that yanta is used as E. So another thing, this ure can be used as O, but Christopher, I wrote CJRT, Christopher used this for the U-glide diphthongs. JRR did not. Here's your shorthand stuff right here. This is TH as T. There's PH as F. This is when you're going to, like Thomas. TH when it just sounds like a T. PH when it sounds like a F. That is an extended tinko. The tinko is the T. Extended parma. The parma is the P up at the top. Extended queste. This right here is the, so if you look right here, the huesta, that's the Bach. That's the Bach Loch one. It is huesta. Extending the huesta downward means that you don't do the H part. So this is like Bach B A, and that is the K plus H. That's this is Bach. But we Americans that don't say the H part should do that, because that is Bach, like that. If you leave that part off, then it's the Bach, like that. Or like Khazad-dûm, right? So that's that. Coming back to here, here's all your, there's the extended onto to make the th of the into the word the. There's the. There's the of, or of, I should say, especially when I'm talking to somebody from the motherland. Extended ampa. This is silent GH. We use this sometimes. This is like night. So night, N I-G-H-T. Because remember, this is G, and this is, actually, let me do it this way. That's G. And if I do it this way, that's the GH as in ghost, right? Ghost, right? This is just G. But if we combine them, then that is a silent GH, as in night. Or I just wrote nigh right there. That's just night, N-I-G-A. That's, so night would be like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So get all this stuff off the screen. Come back to here, and we are completely finished with that. Now we're going to scroll down some more, and you'll see where I started putting all those rules in there. Here's the nasalization, where you just stick the line over the consonant to show an M or an N. Now notice the NG is basically, you get rid of the G's stem, because the G has a stem like this. This is G, like that. And this is NG. That's ING. Okay. Here's your labialized consonant, which is why those things are called labiovelar to begin with, even though in the main grid we don't see it because we're looking at English instead of Quenya. But there's the KW. So quiet. KWIET, quiet. Okay. And you notice that that's not a diphthong. That IE is two separate syllables. Quiet, not a diphthong. You have two vowels next to each other that are not in the same syllable. It's not a diphthong. But when they are in the same syllable, it is. Gemination. There's a bunch of cheat sheets for geminating things. So see, there's the MM where it's geminated under, and there's the nasalized version. We can do either one. We kind of interchange when we do it. There's your S-hook, where you can just put the S-hook off the end. And there's a bunch of examples of how to do it. Here's your regular monophthong vowels. There's the Y. This is Y when it sounds like it sounds like an I. This is Y when it sounds like an E. Down here, there's your silent E, and here's a couple examples of how to do it. Double vowels can be done in multiple ways. And then right here is a grid of all of the diphthongs. You got your Tehtar here and your glide here. So EA sounds like but it's one syllable. That's EA. Whereas right here you've got EI, A. You notice that sounds like a long A. EI sounds like A. Right? Because this E is This I is E. So A. That's why the river Teglin in the Silmarillion, the Teglin is where Turin killed Glaurung, right?
Mhm.
The river Teglin there is spelled Teiglin, and that's pronounced Teglin because it's Teglin.
Mhm.
Teglin. So I would write that. If I was going to write Teglin, I would write this way. I write T E I. There's the E. There's the I.
Mhm.
G L I N. Teglin. Got it?
Mhm.
Okay. This is getting easy, right?
Mhm.
Okay. There's all the that's the grid for the diphthongs, and that's it. The next thing I did is just something for when you're very, very new. I even wrote over here, don't get used to this. But this is like when you're very, very new and you can't find something on the grid. This is a way to come to it here, see it in alphabetical order in our language, see all the
Mhm.
different options. This is every option. You see the H has a bunch of them. So this is straight down the line, and it puts all of these things from this page in alphabetical Latin order.
Mhm.
And the last thing of all, this is the same grid with me removing all the excess stuff and shrinking it into something that you can save on your phone while you're getting good at it. And it has everything on it. There's T as a T, D as a D, TH as a theta, TH as an eth. The nasal is the red, and the N right there is just the way you would write it normally. There's the ore, and this is R for other. This is R for vowels. I've got these little pop-ups, but you're not going to see it if you put it on your phone. But it's just this thing right here. We got your Tehtar vowels, and you got your glide vowels below them.
Mhm.
Right here, there is a period, there's a comma, there's a question mark, exclamation point, parentheses, there's your plural S, there's your labialized consonant for que, and
Mhm.
then this is a colon. Basically, this whole thing right here, you could take this as a screenshot, put it on your phone, and this is everything you need to know as a cheat sheet for your phone. And we are done. How you like it?
Sounds good.
The next thing to do is to start writing things to others
Yeah.
who are trying to improve their reading skills as you are improving your writing skills. Then have them write back to you. And then they are improving their writing skills. And you read it, which improves your reading skills. When Matt taught me these thought processes and how it works, the majority of what we did was this. As soon as I got this page,
Yeah.
I was rolling. I was moving. We were ready to go. And basically, we would write something to each other. We would find some passage in the book, or I was writing a whole bunch of lyrics to him. Like I got a picture of Rick Astley, and I wrote never going to give you up, never going to let you down. I wrote all that in Tengwar. Sent it to a picture of Elvis. I sent a picture of Darth Vader. It's like writing all this stuff that you already know what it says. Writing things that you know, but writing it in English using the Tengwar alphabet. It makes it where even if you get it wrong, they know what you meant to say. Even if they get it wrong, you know what they meant to say. And then you can work with each other and try and improve your skills at writing and reading. And I'll tell you this, writing comes really, really fast, and reading is quite a bit slower. It's not that big a deal to say I can write in Tengwar. It is a big deal to say I can read Tengwar. That's much more difficult to do. Cool.
Cool.
All right. Well, that's going to be it for now. And we'll just see how we can improve off of that. Anybody else that's looking at this in the future, feel free to contact me if you got any questions.